We just got some big Trump legal news, and it is disastrous for him. He's going to be very upset about this, and I'm about to break it down. I'm going to bring somebody in to help do that. Before doing so, we're entering into the next few months that are going to be jam-packed with legal, especially Trump news. And so because he's going to be going from one courtroom to another, every day there's going to be so much to unpack in relation to that. I decided, because I'm not an attorney, I bring someone on who is one and can help us make sense of all of this. And on that note, I'm super excited to announce the first official Luca Beasley Show contributor, Aaron Parnas, who will be our resident legal expert as we enter these pretty uncharted waters. Aaron is a graduate of the George Washington University Law School, a former federal law clerk, current white-collar litigation attorney. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
So good to be here, Luke.
So break this news down for the audience.
Yeah, I mean, we have some major news right now. The United States Circuit Court for the District of Columbia ruled that Donald Trump is not criminally immune from criminal prosecution. This was a stunning decision. It's one that we expected. But the decision was 3-0. It was a unanimous decision. You had a Republican appointee in the majority, essentially saying that Donald Trump's actions leading up to and on January 6, 2021, are fair game for Jack Smith to prosecute. So now the criminal prosecution will move forward.
And that is fantastic news. This was delaying that process and trial from even moving forward, right?
Yeah, it was. Originally, we had a March 4th trial date, but that was pushed because the moment Trump asserted this immunity defense, everything in the trial court kind of just stopped until the appeals process played out. So now you had the first step of the appellate process, the appeal to the D.C. Circuit. That is done. Now what we expect next to happen is Trump's going to seek what is called en banc review, which is a review of the full D.C. Circuit. That's likely going to get denied pretty quickly in the next few weeks. And then he's going to try to appeal the case against the United States Supreme Court. And at that point, it's anyone's guess whether the court actually takes this case or not.
And if they don't, is that the last delay tactic, or are there more that we should expect?
No, that's it. If the Supreme Court says, no, we're not going to intervene, we're not going to take the case, the D.C. Circuit's ruling stands, which is very possible because this is a very clear and easy issue to decide, then Trump is going to go to trial. And I think the way they did this process, at least with Jack Smith's team, the way they did it in the trial court, they're setting up for a possible April or May trial date, even though it was pushed from March. And I think we are likely to have a trial at least before the election in November, which is important here. Super
important. And I've talked about this with my audience, but polling reveals if Trump were to get convicted, that essentially could sink his chances in the election, which is hopeful. We'll see how it all plays out. And to me, even though I want him to be held accountable on all fronts, and I want the law to be applied to him, even with his status and all of that, no one's above the law, especially the January 6th and the attempted coup, the attempt to block the peaceful transfer of power related cases in Georgia and this federal one, to me are the most consequential, the most important for him to be held accountable for, because it is about him and his individual accountability, but also future individuals in that same office not trying to block the peaceful transfer of power again, because they look back in the rearview mirror and see that the guy before who tried was held accountable for it. I have more I want to ask Aaron. Before doing so, I want to remind you of this moment from this process, from this appeal, where a judge was questioning Trump's lawyer and played out this immunity logic to its most, wild extreme, and it went super viral. Take a look.
But as long as it's official. Could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? That's an official act in order to SEAL Team 6?
He would have to be and would speedily be, impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution.
What if he weren't? There would be no criminal prosecution, no criminal liability for that?
Chief Justice's opinion in Marbury against Madison and our constitutional tradition and the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause all clearly presuppose that what the founders were concerned about was not.
I asked you a yes or no question. Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
So your answer is no.
my answer is qualified yes.
So as a lawyer, is that as ridiculous as it seems to me, Aaron?
It is. And I think the DC Circuit today firmly rejected that argument in whole. I mean, I think I want to read a passage from the opinion. It's a long opinion, but the passage quote says, "For the purpose of this criminal case, former President Trump has become Citizen Trump with all of the defenses of any other criminal defendant, but any executive immunity that he may have protected him while he served as president no longer protects him against this prosecution." Essentially what the court said is that Donald Trump, or really any president, can be prosecuted for actions taken while in office if they're not within the scope of the official duties as president. And the actions Donald Trump took leading up to January 6th were clearly not within the scope of his official duties, and therefore it opens them up to criminal prosecution. But the argument made by Trump's attorneys was completely denied in full today.
And separate from just the implications of this for Trump, this is also a pretty historic decision just because this question hasn't been addressed previously. Am I correct on that?
That's correct. This is a novel question of law. No, I mean, we've never, other than Nixon, we really never had an issue where a president might have to assert immunity for criminal charges. And in Nixon's case, he was never indicted, so he never asserted immunity. So this was the first case.
And I have observed the investigations as I can through reporting, and then of course them leading to indictments, then reading the indictments. And to me, again, as an everyman, it feels like, especially this federal case, both the federal cases are really strong. And once the trial begins, I would put my, if I were betting, I would put my money on the prosecution. Is that a correct assessment? Are you predicting this to go not well for Trump?
Yeah, I think these are very strong cases. I think that you have very competent and experienced prosecutors dealing with these cases. I mean, Jack Smith's team is really not messing around, whether in Florida or in DC. I think jury pool in DC specifically is not going to be too favorable for Trump, given the fact that DC residents lived through January 6th. I mean, is it going to be an easy case in DC? No, I think the Florida case is a little more open and shut. But in any event, I think it's going to be bad for Trump either way.
Well, thank you for joining me for this first episode. You will all be seeing much more of Aaron. And where can they find you?
On all my social media platforms at Aaron Parnas.